So you want me to go ahead and have her call in so we can, so just keep her on hold? Or?
If she wants to hold for 15 minutes, otherwise I would do it maybe 5 minutes before you're ready for her. If you can, but if it's easier just to let her hang on.
Okay. So you want to go ahead and have her call in?
Yes. Oh. Mic is good.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's better the closer, but that's fine.
It's directional, doesn't need to be pointed right at them.
It does, but it's okay.
Yes.
We'll readjust. So you can adjust. So you let us know when you're ready. We'll go ahead and hit the button.
Do you want to go ahead and?
So I usually start. We have to get everyone to get an actual official show graphic of these. So I'm gonna use that for now. I mute it
Our slogan.
usually first, just because.
Those are like
basically,
feelings, like if we're
I
really
put it in the
feeling
title once
something.
up here, but I'll show you how to do it next time. Once it's in there,
Wherever.
when you're ready,
Yeah,
you just hit the
any
red button and it'll go. And then you hit preview the live. You know how to do it in order to make it the live. Make sure you turn the sound on. Otherwise, you'll have
Yeah.
a sound issue. So I'm just gonna get you started. I'm gonna stay here, but I'm gonna go out just in case he wakes up. So I'm gonna watch it out there.
Okay.
And I'll pop back in if I see something.
Okay.
You want me to stay for a minute? You good?
Oh, no, you're good.
She's calling me.
I don't know. Is she calling in?
She's on.
She's on.
Hello. So we're gonna go live in just a few minutes. So you can hear us, but we're gonna mute you until that time, okay?
No problem.
All right. All right. Well, all set. Good. Okay, I'm gonna let you do it. I didn't know if you know already.
You started.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
You are now watching and listening to It Needs to Be Heard. My name is Onika Terrell.
And I'm Mr. Robert Eugene Young.
Now that you heard it,
What would you do?
so we kind of assume that everyone knows the basic things that we know. If your background is different, then you know what's different to you. So that's what It Needs to Be Heard is all about. It's been 1 month since we have started this show, and it was a very successful, in my opinion,
Absolutely.
October month.
Mm-hmm.
We had several guests. It ranges from how we began, how we started to this show, and several guests that kind of just inspired us to about challenging ourselves, helping one another. We had Raven White, who also was a person, the mutual person that made this show possible. And also we had persons from tiny homes. We had a gamut of people, so it was really, really exciting and really, really informative. This month we are kicking it off with grief.
Yes. Yes, with grief. And as Mr. Terrell was saying, that's really how this vision all started. You just never know the path that life is going to take you in. It's just important to be able to recognize that path and be able to go forward with it. Yes, you will have fear. Yes, you will have concerns, but still do it. There is nothing stopping you but yourself. As we mentioned before, we shape our own destiny. Yes, life can throw us a curveball. Sometimes it can throw us a snowball and hit us right in the face. But we are still to keep going and to never quit. So I'm really happy that we are talking about grief, because that's how this vision started. And it is something that we must all address in our life. And as our guest today will expound and be a better source for us, there are many forms of grief. It's not just when you lose a loved one through death, but it's also other disappointing situations in our lives.
So just giving a little background and how, many of you knew that how we connected, but just give a little bit more background. So I lost my husband of 10 years. 7 years ago, actually. This month makes 7 years. This year makes 7 years. And it was a difficult journey for me. It was uniquely different. that we had no children, so it was just myself and to learn how to grieve after so many years of being with someone. The journey was difficult in understanding what I felt, how I felt when I felt it, and it was, I believe personally, God's grace that kept me through it, and with persons who prayed for, encouraged me, just strengthened me up. So it kind of became my ministry. It didn't matter who passed away. If I knew you, I would definitely reach out to you and just encourage you along this journey, because it was not an easy thing to handle, being losing someone. You know, I've had my share. Not only did I lose my husband, I lost a niece, a nephew, all within a short period of time, and it was really kind of like a barrage, and I was wondering what in the world was this. But through prayer, counseling, grief counseling, and just God's mercy and grace, I am here still standing. I have Mr. Young
Yes.
share.
And once again, Ms. Terrell, like she said, it became her ministry, and that's basically how this all began. When she and I met initially 4 years ago, through the passing of Raven's father,
Yes.
and then I crossed paths with her, with Sean, my now late significant other, who passed away from cancer a little bit over 2 months ago. She and I had a chance to introduce Anika to Sean, and when Sean passed away, like she said, it was her ministry. She was right there calling me every day, texting me. And now we were talking, we was like, we talk about a gamut of things that are very important, but I truly believe that the community really don't get the same information that everybody else get. That's why this show, It Needs to Be Heard, has become what it is. So through your grief, you still can live. It's not easy, and each and one of us grieves a different way. But I'm really happy today to say that the show was birthed through that, which we are here for the entire community. Whatever you're doing, we want to be a platform for you. That'd be political, financial, parenting, anniversaries, food, your business, your ideas, and anything that we can do to be a positive platform or media platform to show positivity. The media shows enough negativity as it is, but we want to be that platform to continue to show that they are good people. They are people working hard to do the right thing, and that this world is still a place. This world is still a good place to live, and life is still worth living.
Yes. So today's guest is Mrs. Simona Watts, and she is calling in our studio, and she is going to share with us her personal testimony and how she coped, and we're just going to basically have a good conversation with her concerning this, because if anyone understands, is when you go through go through something, you can always count on someone else going through the same thing as you are, and just sharing and encouraging one another is the way that you get through certain things. I can tell you that one thing with grief I experience is a physical pain that is hard to describe, and I just took it as self-care in that process. So we have Miss Simona Watts, and she resides in Washington, D.C., and she received her Bachelor's of Science degree from Oakwood University and her Juris Doctorate from Howard University Law School. She is married to Van Buren Watts III, and the couple has been blessed with 3 beautiful children: Braden Caleb, deceased, Savannah Janae, and Sydney Selah. Simona is a vibrant and joyful inspirational speaker, yet her journey to inspiring others has not been an easy one. It has been filled with disappointment, discouragement, and devastation. However, despite the pain she has experienced, she has determined not to allow life's circumstances to control her. Instead, she has chosen to use life's difficulties as a stepping stone into success. Empowered with her gifts of faith and exhortation, Simona has a passion for encouraging others. She helps women get past life's greatest challenges, as well as discover and fulfill their purpose so they can live an extraordinary life that God desires them to live. As a speaker, her passion, transparency, and conviction allows her to connect with the hearts of her listeners and effectively inspires change. She is the author of the book, Trusting When It Doesn't Make Sense, an inspirational autobiography designed to encourage readers to trust God more than ever. Simona's message is one of hope, perseverance, and total dependence upon God. She is truly a living witness that God can take your heartache and pain and turn it into something amazing if you let Him. We want to welcome Miss Watts.
Hello, Ms.
Thank
Watts.
you.
You're all welcome.
How are you all doing?
We are fine.
Doing great.
How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So we want to thank you first for joining us today. This is a very sensitive topic, we know, and we felt what better person can express than an inspirational person such as yourself. So we have a few questions for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thanks. So tell us how you became an inspirational speaker.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny how God will turn the whole, you turn your whole life around. Several years ago, I was praying and I was asking God what He wanted me to do with my life. And I wasn't asking Him about a career. I was asking Him about basically my purpose. And He showed me that He wanted me to speak for Him. So I was excited about that. And then literally, I think it might have been no more than 3 months after I had the revelation, my son got sick. And I found out that he had cancer. So at that point in time, I was like, wow, Lord, I don't have to speak for you. Because my mind was thinking, like, I know people who have been inspirations, people who have encouraged other people who have encouraged me, oftentimes have really gone through hell. And I just kind of said, wow, is that what's about to happen to me so that I can encourage people? And in that moment, God, He spoke to my heart and He told me, He said, what makes you think that I won't bring you to this victoriously?
Wow.
And I went through my journey. I went through my journey of my son's illness, and the whole time trusting and believing that God was going to heal him, that God was going to bring me through the situation victoriously. And He did bring me through it victoriously. However, my son did pass. And from the whole journey and the experience I had with God while my son was sick, it kind of propelled me into inspirational speaking.
Wow.
So that's how I got here.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing that.
That's how I got here.
Awesome. So did you feel that your grief or your loss, did it shake your faith at any point?
People ask me that a lot, but actually, I think the way everything happened, I have to say no, it didn't. And the reason it didn't was because I think God was bringing me through a process. And I know a lot of times people, when they experience death or great change and loss, the healing and the restoration process starts after the death occurs. But in my situation, it was God dealt with me differently, and the healing and the restoration and the grieving process kind of happened before my son died. So when he died, I was at peace. I had come to the conclusion that this was God's will. I'm trusting God, and for whatever reason, this is what God sees is best. And on top of that, him having told me prior to my son getting sick that he wanted me to speak for him, things were kind of just lining up. So I always say I had my healing process begin before my son died. So I never questioned God about it. I didn't like it. It hurt. But I never, blamed God or found myself having a reason to doubt Him in that process. And I praise God for that because I think He was better able to use me to help other people on the other side. And for me, that was a part of my healing.
Wonderful.
Being able to, immediately, as soon as he died, there was like maybe a month or so passed, and then I was out there, telling my story, encouraging other people, and I just really feel that that's how God was choosing to heal me and facilitate my healing process.
Ms. Watts, so we really thank you. This is Mr. Young. We really thank you for your transparency, especially being a believer and serving a God that can do all things, and that He loves us and He wants to do the best for us. But when there are some valleys that we walk through that are very uncomfortable and that are very painful, but it's good for either other believers and or non-believers to hear that as we walk with the Lord and to grow with the Lord, and live on this planet, that you don't always like what you're going through. It's not always a good feeling, but it's amazing how your wisdom and understanding it broadens. It becomes more secure. It becomes more confident as you go through it. So we do thank you for your transparency, because I lost a father, recently losing a significant other, but losing a child, it's just different types of loss, and how that we can all experience. Even it could be a coworker you can lose. It's just so many ways that you can to experience this type of grief through death.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this part, but one of the reasons I'm just like, God, I really, really just love you, because you help us through the craziest of things. Because, I think as any person who's dealing with the potential death or the declining health of a loved one, your heart doesn't want to believe they're going to die, right?
Correct.
Or you don't want to accept that. And that's where my heart was. I wasn't accepting that. Through the 5 to 6 month process that my son was dealing, the whole time, my faith was on fire. Like, no way, God's not going to let this happen. He's going to heal my son. And I was very, very convicted on that. And so I never thought he was going to die. But on the day that he actually died, that morning, I was having devotion outside thinking, and then God spoke to my heart and he was like, Simona, this whole time you've been praying for your will to be done. Not my will to be done.
Wow.
And I think when I had that realization and God put that in my heart, I was like, wow, God. And I was better able to accept whatever it was that was going to happen. And so after that, me and my husband, we got on our knees and we prayed next to my son. And, I prayed a very sincere prayer. And I said, Lord, if it's your will for Braden to go to sleep, never pass, I accept it. If it's your will to heal him, I accept that too. But whatever your will is, please do it now, because I cannot take any more of this torture. And while we were on our knees, there next to our son, he closed his eyes and went to sleep. And so that's another reason, as painful as it was, I had the peace because God had just put it on my heart about, you're praying for your will, but what if that's not my will?
Wow.
So then to have that prayer and hear God, first of all, I know that God waited. I am completely confident that God waited to allow my son to die until he didn't allow him to die until I was ready, right? So I mentally wrapped my mind around this. And so for that, I'm very thankful, because if it had happened any time before I had come to that, conclusion, or God had given me that revelation, I would have been a basket case. I literally would have been a basket case, because it never crossed my mind that he could die. Even though he was sick and his health was deteriorating. But one thing I also would like the listeners to know, the situation that I was in and where God brought me through, it just didn't happen like that. I've had so many disappointments and discouragements and hurts and pains along the way, and I think that I'm going to call it a wound, but each little wound that you get, when you heal, you get a little stronger. Then you can take a bigger wound and a bigger one, so my life story was preparing me for that moment so that I could trust God and be okay with what his decision was for my son and our family.
Yes, and as you were speaking, as we talked about accepting it and being okay, or okay to best to your ability. But the next thing I would like to ask or interject is, did you seek grief counseling, and if so, how did that help, and how important is that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me say, my okay does not mean I was not, I mean, obviously, I was tore up, you know?
Mhm.
And when I say okay, I don't want people to think like, oh, it happened and I just went about my business.
Right.
No, you know, it was traumatizing.
Yes.
Mentally, I was okay. And in my particular situation, because I went this journey with God, I actually told God, I was like, Lord, since this happened, and you promised me victory,
Mhm.
then I'm asking, actually I'm expecting you, because you are the master healer, master physician,
Mhm.
to be my grief counselor and heal me. That is what I basically said to God. So no, I did not receive any grief counseling.
Mhm.
I do suggest it for people, you know, because you need to be, my situation was just totally, you know, different. And God, you know, He really healed me. And I believe for me, the more that I spoke and the more that I shared my story and the more that I, you know, spoke encouraging words was my personal grief healing process.
Mhm.
But I do see the value in it. I see the importance of grief counseling. I don't think anybody, because God has given us counselors. He's given us people who can help us through the process. Nobody should go through this alone, right?
Yes.
That's
Because
correct.
when you're grieving, that's when the devil tries to attack you the most. When you're down, the enemy will be on you.
Mhm.
So you have to, you know, sometimes you don't have the strength to do it on your own. Talk to somebody, get a counselor. And also, stay in the Word. Now, I don't know about you all when you experienced loss, but it was difficult for me. I didn't feel like praying the way I prayed before, right?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you-
I just
correct.
didn't, you know, I didn't feel like reading my Bible, and you know, I just didn't. I was drained, emotionally battered, you know. So I just lay there in a funk. So I was like, God, please help me. And I just had to keep saying that prayer. God, please help me. Please help me. And I tried to stay busy, keep myself busy, keep myself active, not, you know, so I would not stay in a depressed or down state, you know. It's a struggle, but God brings you through. He brings you through. And also, I had my husband. We decided, you know, we're going to make sure that we communicate
Mhm. Mhm.
and help each other through this process, because we know it's going to be a trying process.
Definitely.
We know it's going to be a very trying process.
I think one
But
of
God
the,
is faithful. He does what He said to do.
That's the truth.
like you saying, like when you're going through, like you don't feel like doing certain things, you don't have the energy or the desire. One of my things that I experienced, of course, with the pain and the tears, with cancer, you know, you're watching TV and you see, hey, this brand new cancer research. I'm like, I do not feel like hearing nothing. Where's this research a few months ago? You know what I mean? And I would be in my car. So for a good time, I would turn the television off. I would switch channels. I become very, 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 very angry. You know, because you know, love the individual, you miss them, and you have this hope and desire that they would come through, not for selfish reasons, but also for the testimony
Mhm.
to encourage others
Yeah.
who are on this walk with God, and also on this holistic walk. Because with us, she and I had become vegan during that time, and we was really maximizing all the knowledge that we had on the holistic route as well. And so, but that was one of the things that I dealt with. Whenever I heard the word cancer, I was like, what? A new race or a
Yeah.
run? I was like, no, I'm not going. I'm turning it off. I don't care. You know, but I do thank the Creator for my current progress. And once again, I'm just glad that we're able to be transparent about it. And while we were going through, like you were referring to, when you're going through things, you have to really hold it together. And we must realize that people are vulnerable, and they will more likely be
Yeah,
susceptible
yeah.
to things or do things that they wouldn't normally do. So that's why grief counseling or someone you can talk to or somebody that you can confide in is so important, because you can very well find yourself in a very, very dark place in your mind, mentally, physically, and in scenarios and or situations.
So true. It's so true. And it's funny you said that about the cancer, because anytime I would see a child,
Mm.
you know, with a bald head or anything, I couldn't hold it together, you know?
Yes.
And then when you go to the grocery store, they're like, would you like to donate $1 to? And I'm like, no. You know, it's just that, it's like that reminder.
Yes.
It's a sore spot. It's a sore spot. But we do make it through. And one thing I have found is that sometimes people don't go to grief counseling right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend, it's been 3 years, and now they're going to grief counseling.
Mhm.
Yes.
So it's never too late, because the pain, we have to live with this for the rest of our lives,
Yes.
the rest of our lives. And meeting individuals who are well, late on in life, maybe in their 80s, talking about losing a child 40, 50 years ago, and the pain is still there.
Yes.
It's still there. It does not go away.
Mhm.
We just are able to better manage it, but
Yes.
it's still a wound that will carry with us right until our entire life.
Yes.
So I don't think it's ever too late to get grief counseling, never too late to talk to somebody,
Mhm.
never too late to, sometimes people, I know for my husband, he didn't want to go to a grief counselor. He's like, what are they going to tell me? They have
Mhm.
I don't want to talk to anybody unless they experience what I experienced.
Mhm.
Yes.
A lot of times, a lot of times that is the truth. You're better able to receive something from someone who's gone through the same thing that you're going through, because you know the pain that you're in.
That's correct.
And if you can see them make it over, it's helpful to you.
Yes.
Definitely. So Ms. Watts, I was listening to you talk about, we were ready to receive a testimony. You knew exactly that God was not going to allow your son to pass. And I think that's with all of us as far as believers are concerned. We were ready for that testimony,
Mhm.
We were ready for that. Yes, look what God did. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have a praise party. Whatever it was that we were to do, we knew exactly what God was going to do.
Yes.
And we were ready.
Yeah.
We were just ready. We were just ready. But what you mentioned concerning accepting what God's will was, and that's something that a lot of us as believers have a tough time handling. What is God's will for our life?
Yeah.
But one of the things I recognize, even in the midst of that's where God is there the most. One of the things I experienced, like my husband passed on a Sunday, and that very evening, after his passing, I spoke to God in such a manner that I've never spoken to God previously. I always, had the faith and trusting in God and praying, but at that point, like when I tell you, I poured my heart, I poured my soul, and it was like one of the best conversations from that point on with God. And, I audibly heard him speaking, and the peace that you felt. I don't know if anyone that experienced it. I don't know if you experienced it, but the peace that you felt. Yes, you were devastated, but it was more so you accepted and you were at peace with God's decision.
Mhm.
So my question to you is: did you receive any negative backlash from people who felt that you didn't grieve accordingly?
No, I never did. Thank God I never did, because that would be traumatizing.
Okay.
But no, I never did. And I think because my journey was so public,
Okay.
it was so public. From the day he got sick, I was just sharing, and it's like the story just kept going. And so many people were there praying with me, hoping the same thing. I think people saw the transformation that God did in me. So maybe it wasn't shocking how I dealt with it afterwards.
Mhm.
And what's funny is I was more concerned with people being upset, maybe not upset, but feeling some kind of way because I was declaring, like God is going to heal him. God told me he's going to heal my son, he's going to heal my son. And then he died. So it's like, well, what's all that stuff you were talking about? So I was more concerned about that. But no, nobody said anything to me about the way that I was handling my grief. But what I have found is that when you are grieving, people will say hurtful things to you. In other forms.
Yes,
They'll say hurtful
yes.
things to you that they really don't think about. And I know it's the enemy again, because the enemy does not play fair. He waits until you're wounded, and when you're wounded, when he really attacks.
That's correct.
So it's like, whew. That's the times you have to really depend on the Lord. You have to really depend on God when you're hurting. And like you said, those are times when God is closer to you. Feel like He's nearer to you when your heart is
Yes.
broken.
Yes, the correct. Mm-hmm. That's
So
true.
I'm so thankful for that.
What you mentioned concerning about negative things people say, I have to kind of express it because I experienced it. And it's from people who I think are somewhat well-meaning, but it comes out just, oh, so wrong. One of the things I received about a month after, now my husband was 35, we were about the same age at the time, we were 35, and someone, Lord bless their heart, came up to me in church and said, oh, don't worry, you can get remarried again, you're still young.
Yeah.
So it was one of those
Yeah.
things that, like, okay, so to respond to them on that wonderful, beautiful Sabbath day it was a restraint, but I think a lot of people don't recognize how to approach
No, they
persons with grief. And can you give me some suggestions or give our listeners some suggestions? What are some things to say to a person who's lost their child? Speaking from your vantage point.
Yeah, sometimes not saying anything is the best thing you can do. I mean,
I agree.
sometimes
Yes.
I prefer for you to come and give me a hug
Yes.
and not say anything.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
I know, I mean, I'm very, things don't bother me so much, but I know a lot of people, it's hurtful. They say, oh, I understand how you feel.
Mm.
Because they're like, no, you don't understand how I feel.
Simply
And
don't.
again, this is not a bad comment per se, but this is, people are well-meaning in the things that they say, but again, sometimes silence is the best thing that you can do. And a lot of times people will say, oh, is there anything we can do for you? You know, what can I do to help? And when you're in the position of you, sometimes you don't want to say, well, this is why I need X, Y, Z, right?
Correct.
So for the people outside looking in, don't ask, just do.
Wow.
You know,
Yes.
don't put that pressure on the person who's grieving to say, well, or to feel uncomfortable to ask you, well, I need my grass cut, would you mind? Because then you have that fear of saying, oh, well, no, actually, I can't cut your grass, but is there anything else? You know, you don't want to hear them say no.
Yes.
So
Correct.
don't ask, just do. There's tons of things you can think of that are helpful for somebody who's lost a family member. You know they probably don't feel like cooking. Send them a meal. Send them a gift card so they can order food or, come to their house, cut their grass, send a cleaning service to their house. I mean, there are tons of things that you can do to help the person that's grieving. And I honestly, for me, I think not saying anything but being, showing love is the best thing that you can do. But it's too hard. It's too easy to say the wrong thing, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
It's too easy to say the wrong thing. Oh, God knows. And some people don't want to hear God knows what's best
That's
at that
correct.
particular time.
That's correct.
Even though it's the truth,
That's true. Yes, you are correct.
you know? And just like how you said, somebody telling you, oh, they think they're encouraging you, but that's not. When you're missing a loved one, you don't want to hear that. There is no replacement for your husband. There is no replacement for my son.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So
Yeah.
thanks for that. So tell me about this book, Trusting God When It Doesn't Make Sense.
Yes, that is a book. It's my life story, but it's more than my life story. It's a book that contains a ton of encouragement for any of us that are on this earth trying to walk this Christian journey and keep your head above water, right?
Yes.
Because for all of us, things happen that do not make sense. And God put this book on my heart. I said, oh, I need to write a book. Oh, man. In 2003, that was a long time ago. I was like, oh, I need to write this book. I was going through some things. I had just failed out of medical school. And for me, it was traumatizing because I was that A student that, the one who does well in everything, and then here I am about to be a doctor, and it does not work out.
Mm.
And I was hurt. I was broken. And I said, I need to write a book. God put it on my heart to write a book. Little did I know that my story wasn't finished.
Mercy.
Oh, like med school was a joke. That whole tragedy was nothing. You know, fast forward 10 years, a lot happened in the 10 years that followed. And so God told me it's time to write the book. It's time to write it down and encourage somebody. So it is a book that will encourage individuals to trust God when it does not make sense. Keep your faith strong, because we all go through stuff. So that's what I wrote. Very
So-
excited about it.
So, in the process of writing this book, was there any like moments of writer's block? Was there any difficulties, anything that bumps in the roads, or everything was just smooth sailing?
No, writing the book was difficult.
Okay.
You know, certain parts were easy. The parts that happened years ago, like, fine, I can do that. When it came to writing the stuff about Braden, it
Okay.
was hard. I mean, many times I would just be sitting there crying, but I'm like, no, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. If I die tomorrow, next week, next year, I gotta write this to encourage somebody else who's gonna go through some things. So, Lord helped me push through. He helped me to push through and get through some of the difficult chapters. Every chapter was not that hard, but there were some places that, it was very difficult to relive some of your most painful moments. But I know it was worth it. Every tear I shed was well worth it. Well worth it.
Wow, wonderful. So, because you're an inspirational speaker, and if someone wants to contact you, say a church group or a women's group or something of that nature, how would they get in contact with you?
They can go to my website, SimonaWatts.com. And that is Simona, SamonaWatts.com, SimonaWatts.com. And also, I don't know if I told you, but I have a YouTube channel where I post inspirational videos to encourage people. So if anybody just needs a boost of encouragement, prayerfully it's a good word for you. Check out some of my videos that I have online. And I pray that they will encourage you. That's YouTube. My name is Simona Watts. It should just come right up.
Awesome.
We really truly thank Ms. Simona Watts for being our guest today on grief. We do plan on continuing to focus on grief because that was basically the birth of the show. You are now watching It Needs to Be Heard with Mr. Robert Eugene Young.
And Onika Terrell,
Now that you've heard it,
what will you do?
we thank we want to also give thanks to Dr. Baruch, who is the owner of Everlasting Life and the I believe the starter of eLife Media. Also, we would like Onika and myself also give thanks out to Miss Malik's Fashions. Even though it's Malik, it's a female. And when we first came here a week before, we had to take pictures, and she was the young lady who Dr. Baruch kind of volunteered to take pictures, but she did such a fantastic job. If you were to look at our websites or our social media sites, you would see them. But I wanted to say thank you to her because she did such a great job. And her company is called Malik's Fashions Jewelry, and she can be reached at Malik's, that's MALIKS Fashions.com. So that's FASHIONS. And her contact number is 202-528-1642. That's 202-528-1642. Also in our announcements, we have a Christmas program by the Ellicott City Church, Wonder and Glory. That's December 15th at 6 p.m. The address, which has great parking, is 3291 St. John's Lane, Ellicott City. Admissions is free, and there will be a free will offering during the program. Also, as we mentioned earlier about the DC Students Construction Trade Foundation, an accredited sponsor for skilled trades education and training for the youth in DC and adults in District of Columbia. The point of contact is Ms. Shelley Kareem, and her phone number is 202-399-4750, extension 120. The number again is 202-399-4750, and the website is ACADNEWSDC.org. NewVettica.org. And also a new announcement I'd like to do today, something I found out, is called NewVettica. NewVettica. That's spelled NE'Vetica. It's a new app for pet owners to increase the health and nutrition for their pets. Their technology, research, and home delivery and customer care is there to help improve the quality of life for your special family member, which is your pet. And you can contact them through 240-258-7387. The number again is 240-258-7387, or by email at info@Nevetica. That's NEVETICA.com.
Ms. Watts, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. So the trusting, your book, Trusting When It Doesn't Make Sense, where can people purchase?
Good one.
Yes, they can purchase it on my website, SimonaWatts.com. I think it's /shop. But when you go, if you go to the website, you'll see it in the table of contents. Little menu bar. But SimonaWatts.com, my book is there.
Awesome. So, slightly, what has a book taught you? What has this book, writing the book, has taught you? Or what lesson have you learned since writing this book?
Yes. The lesson that I learned is that when you experience a trial, the biggest blessing is in sharing it with someone else.
Wow.
The biggest blessing is in sharing it with someone else. Because just seeing how other people are being healed from my story,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a great feeling that is. You know, with all that we have to experience in this world, and all the devil does to us, first of all, that's the biggest payback you can give them.
Hey,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I
But
love
that's what I've learned. You know, there is power in sharing your testimony,
Yes.
sharing your story. So I don't think I'll ever be silent. I don't know what, comes up or will come up in the future, but I'm going to just talk the Lord's goodness and tell somebody else.
Yes. Wonderful.
Speaking of sharing, one of the churches, I'm a church musician, and there's a church that I play for on first, fourth, and fifth Sunday, called Southern Bethany Baptist Church in Lower Maryland. Pastor Walter Sadler Sr. He lost his youngest son a week before I lost Sean. And what I wanted to share is how he grieved with his congregation. And what he did for the entire month of August, he invited professionals, either ministers and/or counselors or psychologists, to speak for him. Instead of him preaching or giving a sermon, he had them present to not just him, but to the entire congregation. And I think that was really profound, because by him being a pastor, a place of leadership, he was grieving and the congregation was grieving. And by his son being so instrumental in the renovation of the church and setting up of the sound system and the church drummer, so he was an icon of sorts of the church as well, for lack of better terms. So them not seeing him on the drums and them not seeing him, he was only 24, 25, was also traumatic to them as well. So I want to give much respect and recognition to Pastor Sadler, who was very open, him and his wife and his other son and grandson, about this, but sharing the experience with the congregation. I think that was really, really profound in allowing your members to see you vulnerable. I've experienced through my profession, when you're in leadership or supervisor, once you let that guard down, people lose respect for you. I don't know why they do that, but for Pastor Sadler, I do appreciate that concept of him sitting in the congregation with his congregation and allowing someone to help them through the process together, because outside of his son passing away and his relationship with his son and his wife, he also has a relationship with his congregation and the community. So much respect to that concept of Pastor Sadler.
So, Miss Watts, you talked about being transparent and allowing the conviction to connect your listeners, and that is so important. If I didn't share what I experienced and with Mr. Young,
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't take it. How is he taking it now? We all need that encouragement, and because, like you mentioned, our testimony encourages others. And that's where we get hope. That's where we get through. Because, as you mentioned before, it's a pain that we will all go through and remain with us throughout our entire lives. It's not something that's going to end. And that's one of the reasons why a show is it's not the end, but a new beginning, because you're basically beginning in a different way. You're adjusting in a different way. And many people, especially if you have a loved one that is that passes, you're adjusting to a new normal.
Yes.
You're adjusting to, how do I cope without this person here?
Mm.
And whether we experience it suddenly,
Mm-hmm.
whether we experience it like the three of us here within a medical illness,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna it doesn't lose its sting either way. Whether, and it's still a process that we have to go through. But the blessing that is that we don't go through it alone.
Right.
We share that, and your platform is far more greater than I believe. That I don't think I would share it in such a manner. It took me quite some time to get to this point,
Yeah.
but the fact that you were just there, and you knew that your purpose was to share, but God took you on a different journey. So we just want to thank you so much for taking the time out on a lovely Sunday evening, and sharing what you do and your journey. We thank you so much for the opportunity to be blessed by this. This is something that I'm sure our listeners will be blessed by, and I just want to thank you once again for just allowing us, to spend this time with you.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. To be able to share, I'm so grateful for each and every opportunity I get. Try to encourage somebody else. And thank you for what you guys are doing. People need it. People need it. So that's a blessing.
Well, that's the reason why we have this show, and the name of this show. It needs to be heard. It definitely needs to be heard.
Absolutely.
Yes, it does. It does.
So a part of our segment in this show is what we call expressions.
Yes.
So,
Or proverbs.
I call it proverbs because I'm, of course, from Guyana,
What?
as many people know now.
Yes.
And we share proverbs that, things that, in life's circumstances, we usually have a saying for it.
Yes.
So one of the proverbs today, and we're going to ask you, what you have a proverb or expression? So, of course, I'm going to say it, which always traumatizes poor Robert, in Guyanese Creolese, and then, of course, I'm going to give the English translation and the definition of the proverb. So our proverb is, when coconut fall from tree, you can't fasten back. It says, when a coconut falls from a tree, he can't fasten back. The meaning of that is some happenings or events cannot be changed or reversed. However, how you start from that point on makes a difference. Or we can't change the fact that our spouse or our child or a significant other is no longer here. We can't change that fact. What has been done is done. However, how we step forward from this point on, the new beginning, makes a total difference. Do you have a special expression or a proverb that you would like to share, Miss Watts?
Yeah, actually I do. It's a phrase that comes from a song, but it's only what you do for Jesus Christ will last.
Ah.
Amen. Go ahead, sing a little bit.
You said what?
You heard what I said.
I think it's a commission song. But, it's a powerful phrase.
Yes,
I gotta
yes.
sing it back. I wish I could.
Amen. And you know, thank you so much for being so lighthearted as well, because just being able to laugh again. Oh my goodness! I think
Yeah.
one thing that
Yeah.
I think one thing that I did in my grieving process, I watched a lot of comedy. I would be on YouTube for hours watching comedians I knew and comedians I didn't know, because you had to learn how to breathe again. I mean, just to feel my chest move and to breathe freely was
Yeah.
I was conscious of that. But comedy, when I think of all the comedians, and may he bring them all to understand that they don't have to use profanity to be funny, but in saying that, they still
Yeah,
have good
yeah.
points. But we have to be able to laugh again, and I'm still learning how to laugh, and I can be a timely comedian myself, if I may say. But having said that, it's good to hear you laugh, because it sounded like you was like, your mouth was wide open, letting it loose. And that's just a way of us dealing with grief and getting through the process. And so we just thank you once again. And we hope to have more shows about grief, because it is something that hopefully we can do as a family. If you can talk to your sisters, your brothers, about not just death, but all situations that has given you some form of disappointment throughout your life.
Yeah, yeah. So true,
Absolutely.
so true.
So once again, can you just give us, our listeners and those who are watching, how to contact you for inspirational speaking, your book, all that great stuff again?
Okay. You guys can find stuff about me, anything you need, on SimonaWatts.com. And that is SamonnaWatts.com, SimonaWatts.com. And you can check me out on YouTube, just Google Simona Watts.
And speaking of YouTube, we were broadcasting, though this is our 5th show, this is our first time broadcasting on our YouTube channel,
Hey.
set up by the Miss Onika. It needs to be heard, so we're doing our first live streaming even today. So we're moving forward as well, and hope to get our website up and going. Though this is our first season, I do see us going forward. So for those who would like to support It Needs to Be Heard, can send monetary expressions of affection to GoFundMe.com/It Needs to Be Heard. PayPal, the email address, it needs with the S, it needs to be heard @gmail.com, and with Cash App, with the $, it needs to be heard. And so we're really excited about moving forward.
Once again, you are listening and watching It Needs to Be Heard. My name is Onika Terrell.
And my name is Mr. Robert Eugene Young.
Now that you heard it,
What are you going to do?
Audio's off. I'm just doing a splash screen for the logo on the Future State Facebook. And
Yeah.
now we're off.
yes, thanks. Thanks again, Miss Simona.
It's
Yeah,
just-
it's good stuff what you guys are doing. I
Thank
like
you.
doing this.
Pass the word. We want to create this platform for anyone that needs more exposure, or even an opportunity to speak as well.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to do it, because I meet so many people who need grief